Hi, I'm Liz Van Denzen, and I am the digital campaigns producer for Ignite Change. I am based in Santa Fe, New Mexico, so in the general territory of the Mexican gray wolf, but I originally hail from Minnesota, and so have spent a lot of time in wolf country in the Boundary Waters and in northern Minnesota. So it's an issue that's near and dear to my heart. So I really appreciate all of the great work that folks have done on this campaign and continue to do. And lobbying is so important, and I really appreciate everyone's efforts on this. I'm on the call with my fellow co-host Valerie from Ignite Change and Bret from the Center for Biological Diversity. We're hoping that we can, like Valerie said, give you a bunch of tips about how to do district meetings and meetings with your representative, but also give you a good opportunity to ask us any questions to help you set up the process. I'm sure you've seen a number of these folks before, our experts in this field, Bret and Valerie, and there are many people who've been on similar calls in the past, so we appreciate your commitment. Now I will let Bret and Valerie introduce themselves as well. Thank you.
All right, like Liz said, if you've gotten this far, you probably know me. I'm Valerie. I'm the organizing director with Ignite Change. I love wolves. I'm far from an expert in this field. That's why I love having Bret on the call, but I have been organizing with the center for over 5 years now. And I love all the work that we do, and I'm passionate about grassroots volunteers really taking power to our hands and making change. So.
And I'm Bret Hart. I'm the Government Affairs Director at the Center. I split my time between Arizona and DC. And as my title suggests, I am our sort of chief lobbyist, and I've been doing DC lobbying for a long time. I also worked on the Hill for a member of Congress for a year, so I've sat on both sides of the table. And obviously I love wolves. I've seen them in Alaska and Montana and the Himalayas, and they're pretty amazing. So I'm excited that everyone's on the call. So yeah, welcome.
All right. And we want to hear from just a couple of you. It's nice, especially in this smaller group setting. We have about 30 folks on the call to hear from a couple of folks and know why you've made it this far. Why are you stepping up to meet with your representative or try your darndest to get that meeting? So if you would like to share just briefly why you've stepped up to take this stand for wolves and lobby your representative or your member of Congress, please raise your hand. So that is a button on the bottom of your screen. It's like a little hand raise button, and I see we have a few. Here we go. Oops. Hey, Karen Doyle, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Hey everyone. Well, I've always loved wolves as a kid growing up, and to hear that they're trying to remove protections, and in my mind, I mean, their numbers are just way too small compared to what they should be, and I just feel so passionate about this that I have to do something. It's like I feel like if everyone just pushed themselves that one extra step, we could get so much more done, and that's why I'm doing this. We have to protect our natural world, because otherwise there'll be nothing left for us. And I already have my meeting scheduled for next Wednesday.
Yes,
I'm excited.
Awesome. All right, great. Thank you so much, Karen. Okay, and next, Jeffrey, you hang on. You should be able to, having technical difficulties. Oh no, Jeffrey's using an older version of Zoom. We're having some. Here we go. We got you though. I think you can unmute yourself now, Jeffrey. Oh, let me, okay. Jeffrey, you should be unmuted. No, we're having trouble though. Okay. All right. Sorry, Jeffrey. We're going to have to skip you over technical difficulties, but thank you for your commitment. And I'm going to go to Allison here. Allison, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Hi, I'm Allison Dahlman, and I'm in Cambria, California. This is literally tearing me up. I feel like the wolves and nature are such a part of all of us. I'm also an empath, and I literally am feeling everything. For the most part, when I'm walking my dogs at Moonstone, I'm getting positive responses. That the horrible thing, one of the horrible things about it, however, is that so many people don't know. The news is not talking about this. They just don't care, and I feel like they're giving our schlock, who is, that's what I call the person in the White House. They think they're feeding his base, and I don't know how, when I do come across somebody who is all about the NRA and is all about hunting and murdering, I don't know how to say, how does that make you feel good? How does murdering and taking a life, how is that good? I don't understand it. And I get choked up, and it's very difficult to talk about. So I was just gonna say, how do you try to get through to some of those people? Because they just don't seem to care.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, Allison, for sharing. It's just, I know a lot of people on this call probably feel that, whether, it's that, oh, hang on. Whether it's that close to the surface for you, or, however you feel it and channel it, like that probably reflects what a lot of us feel deep down, which is just this sadness and not understanding why people would want to kill these beautiful, majestic, social creatures that we love so much. I will say, just to your question, we don't need everyone to win. And in general, I just think, it's not worth my time and energy to try to convince folks who are like way on the other side of this issue. We actually are the majority that want wolf protections and wolf recovery. So we just need to educate and organize people who love and support wolves. We can win with that. So with that, I am going to pass it to Bret. He's going to dive into some of just the more, he's going to start with why we lobby, and then we're going to get into more of the nitty gritty of how, and then we'll circle back and do question and answers at the end. Over to Bret.
Okay, thanks, Valerie. So we certainly talked about this before, but why lobby? Why go through all the work? I think at its most basic level, just like the fact that you all are on this webinar, putting in the FaceTime, there is a psychology and sort of an impact factor of actually going in and talking to a person. It's a way that they can gauge the level of interest and support for an issue, right? So it's easy to click on an email and take an action and send a message to a member of Congress. I'm not saying that's not important, but I do know that your impact is greater if you take that time and effort to go speak to them in person, because at some fundamental level, it shows how much you care. And there are many times, and again, having sat on both sides of the table in DC, where you go, man, this doesn't feel like this is worthwhile, but it is. Showing up, meeting them, talking to them, explaining why you care, that's a message that will more likely get back to the member of Congress than simply an email. because they get a lot of those in a day. But they don't get that many people or groups of people coming in and talking about an issue. So, I lobby for the center. I do it a lot. It can be exhausting and sometimes frustrating, but it's important because it's how we can convey what we think members of Congress should do. But it is not the same as having their, constituents come and talk to them. When they see an organization, they view us obviously as, we represent a lot of people and we can explain our position, but having people from around the country talking to their members of Congress is how decisions are made. I think the last couple of years do kind of show that. Like when people make a lot of noise, they can convince Congress to do the right thing. When people don't make as much noise, sometimes it goes badly. So, we're basically trying to encourage you to participate because one, it helps with, this particular issue, but also, your member of Congress will get to know all of us and to recognize that we care about this issue as well as other environmental issues very deeply. And over the long run, they can't ignore us because we represent a lot of grassroots power. So I'm glad you're all on the call, and I think hopefully we can go over all your questions because lobbying is not that difficult, and I think we can give you whatever steps you need. It was encouraging, I can't remember her name, to already hear that one person has gotten a meeting set up because it isn't that challenging, but I will go through the basics of it so that it makes sense to you all. The first step, obviously, is, who do you want to go meet with? That's probably going to be your representative, but always remember that you have a backup for your senators. And you are going to want to go online and figure out first who to call. Now, this is a very important step. Every member of Congress has both a DC office as well as one or more in-state offices. You don't want to call the DC office because then you're getting, like if you're in California, you call the DC office and you ask for a meeting, they're going to think you're going to be in DC for that meeting. So you want to call your in-state office. You'll look online, try to find the one that's closest to where you live, and you're going to call the main number. And when you call them, they will pick up the phone. At that point, all you have to do is basically ask for the staffer that covers environmental issues, and they will tell you, or they should. My experience is that almost always that happens. Just say, hi, I'd like to know which one of your staff in that office covers environmental issues, and to speak to them. Now, they may ask you, why, who are you first, but you can always ask no matter what their particular name is. So when I call an office, and I do this all the time, like this is not like I don't have a different approach. I have to do the same thing. I call the office and I say, who's your environmental staffer? They usually will at least tell you who it is. Ask if it's the common spelling of the name, because I think we have a slide that explains this, but if you know the person's name and how to spell it, you can figure out their email. It's very easy. So you find the name of the person that covers environmental issues in that office. It could be the case that maybe they don't even have one. They might just say, well, we don't have one. And you say, okay, well, I'd like to speak to whoever will take an in-person meeting in your office to talk about environmental issues. Find that person's name, write it down, and then say, okay, can I please speak to them? They will hopefully transfer you to their direct line. It's quite likely you will get their voicemail. Many staffers screen their calls. Sometimes they're in meetings. Sometimes they're out sick. If you don't connect with them in person, just leave a voicemail that says, I would like to come in and meet with you and talk about wolves and, the administration's effort to end federal protections for them. I will send you an email to follow up. Leave your phone number and do exactly that. Get off the phone, send them a short email saying, I'm with a small group of people. We'd like to come meet with you and talk about this issue in person in the next couple of weeks. And we hope that you can find some time to schedule it. Probably 15 minutes will be enough. And then you have to kind of wait and see. Some staffers, and this is, I guess I should always say this, don't take it personally. Some staffers are not great. They might not get back to you. If a few days passes and they haven't responded, call again, send another email. They get inundated with emails. You have to be a little dogged and persistent. Most of them will respond. Sometimes they don't. I get blown off too. It's irritating. I'm not going to lie, but it does happen. But try, and you have to maybe sometimes try a few times. That's okay. If for some reason your representative just will not speak to you, you have a couple choices. Obviously, you could always just show up at their office with a small group of people and demand to speak to someone. It's a public building that they're going to be in. They can't refuse your entry because as members of Congress, they're sort of accountable to the public. You can always just go show up and sort of demand to talk to someone. That can work. Another choice would be you could go meet with your senator, right? If your representative is just totally uninterested, you have 2 senators, you can go set up a meeting with them. So there's lots of options, but it does take, I would say, a little bit of persistence. Don't worry if you don't immediately get a response. Having said all that, most of the time they will be responsive. They will take the meeting. They want to hear from their constituents. They will set up a meeting. They'll give you the time, the address, the particular location. You will want to make sure that the person that you're meeting with is the person that you are corresponding with. It is quite possible that you will get assigned to a different staffer. That's okay. You just have to be a little bit flexible. And then once you have your time, then you can kind of, figure out, okay, who else can come, get this all squared away, and figure out a plan. Many congressional offices are, I would say, fairly small. So be a little bit cognizant that if you bring 30 people, which is awesome, there might not be space for everyone to sit. Groups of 5, maybe to 10 are probably a pretty good number. The staffer will feel like, okay, people care about this if they see 10 people coming in to talk about wolves. So just think through some of the logistics, how you're going to get there, what you're going to do, and things like that. So in general, though, it's not that difficult. And we all do it. Everyone who lobbies goes through the same exercise. You just got to be a little bit persistent and a little bit dogged. And, most of the time it'll work. I think obviously if you guys run into serious problems, we're certainly here to help you through those. But, you got to be a little persistent in all of this. So I think that's the main basic intro. Valerie, did I miss anything in sort of the basics?
No, that was amazing. The only thing that I wanted to add in the requesting a meeting, getting a meeting section was once you have a meeting, please put it on the Ignite Change map. We will be in touch with you about recruiting other people to join you and how many people, limiting that number if necessary, or even not doing recruitment if you don't want it. But like Bret said, hey, if we can get 2 people out to join you or 5 people out to join you, that can really send a message. So, and it's also our way of knowing what meetings are happening where. So please do add it to the Ignite Change map. I'll share that in the chat in just a second. It's our main map that you've probably seen and hopefully used before, but oh good, someone said thank you, I didn't realize. So read those. Anyway, here's in the chat to the map. Please add it there, and I think over to you, Liz.
Yep, and again, answering Hillary's question in the chat, it's another way for you to check check the map occasionally and see if there's a little dot on the map in your area, and you can check to see if there's somebody else to check in with who might already have a meeting. That's our whole goal with that map, is let's connect.
Yes.
So once you have the meeting scheduled, another thing we suggest is when you put the meeting on the map, add the time about a half an hour before the actual meeting starts. And that is so that you can hopefully huddle with your group in advance to sort of touch base and keep track of who's going to do what, because you want to have some kind of clearly defined roles so that the meeting goes smoothly, because you're probably not going to have a lot of time. These people, as we've said many times, are really, really busy. Oftentimes, especially at the state and local level, they cover a lot of different issues. And so they're meeting with a lot of different people. So it's important to remember, that you want to keep it short and sweet and to the point. So schedule a little bit of time beforehand to check in with each other. Then, because these people are super duper busy and we want to respect their time, make sure you get to the office about 5 minutes in advance. And then you're going to check in with the receptionist or secretary, or maybe there's only 2 staff people in the whole office and they both just sort of switch off who's covering it. So you just be like, hey, we're here to meet with so-and-so. My name is Liz and I'm here to meet with so-and-so on the issue of wolf delisting. Then you might have to wait and hang out. And so just remember to be polite and courteous and friendly to all the staff who you're interacting with. And even if you know that like a member might be on the opposite spectrum of us or have shared different views than you on other issues, please try to just remember to keep it polite, and we're here to just try to get our message across. So you'll probably meet with a staff person and not the member themselves, but that's still important because this is about building a relationship with that office. And you want to build a rapport with that staff person so that they understand you're passionate about this issue and that you could become a go-to resource on wolf issues and maybe other conservation issues in the future. So once you're in the room to meet, have everyone introduce themselves. Make sure to say where you're from, your town, so that the member or staff knows that you're a constituent, that you live in their district. Then briefly introduce the issue. So just briefly talk about, we're here to talk about Trump's plan to remove protections for wolves across the lower 48. And then another key thing is you don't have to be an expert on this issue. We know that many of you are experts and might even know more about this issue than I do, but it's really about telling your personal passion about why you're passionate about this issue. That's what's important, and that will come through to the member and will probably leave an impression and make it more likely that they raise the issue to the member. So have 1 or 2 people give that little personal spiel, and then you can give a few talking points about why delisting is bad. So many of the things we've gone over on so many of these different webinars. Wolves have not returned to most of the places where they should be. And even where they have returned, they're just hanging on by a thin thread. But you can mention to people that, there could be wolves in the Southern Rockies or the Adirondacks. And unlike many other endangered species, once wolves are removed from the Endangered Species Act, they will likely be hunted and trapped, and we'll find ourselves in the same situation we were in before. So it's really important to maintain these federal protections for wolves. So then, key point about meetings is that you always want to have one ask, one thing that you want to ask of that person, and one main goal of that meeting. And so in this situation, that ask that we're looking for is that we hope your boss, the representative or the senator, will firmly oppose the Trump administration's efforts to delist the wolf and speak out against the proposal, and that in the year and years to come, that they support the efforts to bring about serious congressional oversight of wolf protections and any other efforts to weaken protections for endangered species, so that science guides conservation rather than special interests that want to see our species delisted. So that's the main thing you want to get across. So once you've made that, stop. Stop talking. Allow that pregnant pause. Allow that silence, because you want to now get them to react. How do they feel about this issue? Is this issue something that the member has worked on before? Is it similar to something else that they're working on? All of this information is really critical and helps to continue to build that relationship. Which brings me to another key role, having someone to be a note taker in real time, because these meetings will go very quickly and a lot of information will get covered. So it's important to try to get some of these important responses down so that we know them for future conversations with those offices. And then another trick or tip is, like we said, you don't have to be an expert on this issue. It's about your personal passion. So there may be questions that you're asked that you don't know the answer to, and that's perfectly fine. It's actually quite helpful because it helps you continue to build that relationship with the staffer. And so you can say, you know, hi, I'm sorry, I don't know the answer to that question, but I know some people who might, so I'll write it down and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And again, that helps build the relationship. So that's the big general overview. Now we're going to take a crack at doing a sample for you, a little role play, so that you can get a sense of how this will go. So Bret, do you want to lead us off?
Sure. And so I think in this scenario, Liz is the staffer and Valerie and I are the people just coming in to talk. So yeah, normally I would just start by, hi, my name is Bret. I'm from Washington, D.C. Thank you for taking time to meet with us. I know you're very busy. We really appreciate it. This is really important to us. We're all going to introduce ourselves, just let you know where we're from. And then we're going to just explain why we're here. So again, I'm Bret, and then Valerie.
Hi, and my name is Valerie Love. I live in Berkeley. I've been a lifelong advocate for the environment, and I'm also a mom, and I want my daughter to grow up in a world where wolves are alive and well, and that they are having positive ripple effects through America's ecosystems that we cherish so much. So thanks again for taking our meeting.
And obviously, if you have more people, they will all speak. But, then you say, look, just want to make sure you understand the basics. Just a couple of weeks ago or a month ago, the Trump administration proposed ending protections nationwide for wolves under the Endangered Species Act in the lower 48 states. And, depending where you are, you can say, except New Mexico and Arizona, but effectively ending most protections for wolves. And we're really concerned. We think that this is very premature, and there's a couple reasons why we don't think this is a good idea. First, there are lots of places in the lower 48 where there's a lot of suitable habitat and places that wolves could still be recovered and still need to be recovered, including California and the Southern Rockies and Colorado. And we don't think this follows the best science. And another reason we're really concerned is what might happen after delisting. And Valerie, why don't you just explain what the dangers are if we delist wolves too soon?
Yeah, well, I'm particularly concerned about what will happen in California. Here in California, recovery is especially important here in these early stages. And because in California, we rely on the wolf population coming down from Oregon. So just like OR7, Oregon wolves coming over the border, but wolves are not protected with federal protection. They can start to be shot and killed on site and trapped. And this could really mean a serious hit to wolf populations. And that could jeopardize wolf recovery in California because although we have some adequate state protections, it's not as strong as the federal. And in Oregon, they don't have state protections for wolves. So this is going to mean stripping wolf protections from Oregon and really impact the recovery here in California. So I really urge that we really need these federal protections for long-term wolf recovery.
Great, thanks, Valerie. And yeah, just like she said, we're really concerned. Lots of us that are here, we really care deeply about wolves. I've seen wolves in Yellowstone and in Denali and other parts of Alaska. They're incredible animals. And, I personally just really want to see them recovered fully and not to see the Trump administration strip away protections. So, what we really just hope is that your boss will do the right thing and speak out against this proposal, help the larger effort against this delisting proposal. We hope that you might be able to help with congressional oversight to make sure that this administration is held accountable, so that science is guiding this decision and not, letting special interests or politics prematurely get rid of protections for wolves. So yeah, we really just want to hear what you have to say and what you've already heard from other folks in the community, and what your boss might be willing to do.
Well, that's really interesting. Thank you. I really appreciate that. I appreciate Valerie saying that she's a mother. I too am a mother. It's really important. The Congresswoman has 2 kids herself. And I think you're probably aware, but she's also very strong on animal rights issues. So she really cares about these types of issues, and it seems like it's a very similar crossover. So it's definitely an issue I think I'll raise to her. We have so many other things going on right now. We're trying to get Trump's taxes, and, we have the Mueller report and a whole bunch of other things that are going on right now. So it's hard to get her attention, but we are on recess right now. So hopefully I get a couple minutes with her, and I'll see if I can include this in the list of, 5 to 10 other things I need to talk to her about. But, I do appreciate your time. And, Valerie mentioned OR7. What's OR7?
Valerie? I can do it too.
Go ahead.
Well, no. So first, obviously, thank you. That's good to hear. We know your boss is really busy, and we live in crazy times, and there's so many demands on members of Congress. But this is still really important to us, and we really hope that your boss might become a champion and speak out. And we're happy to help, and we're happy to, get you follow-up information or, whatever else you might need to help convince your boss that this is actually worth really committing to, and we appreciate it. And in relation to your question, OR7 was the first wolf that came back to California in 100 years. He crossed over from Oregon, and he wandered around California for several years before he finally found a mate. And he was the founding population or member that created wolves and wolf packs in California. And it would not have happened without the indigenous people.
That's a great love story. And I really appreciate your time. I'm sorry, I got some more folks out here I need to go meet with on a whole different issue. So thank you so much.
Thanks for having us, and we really appreciate you taking some time.
Okay, so that was our little sample. Just a couple more tips before we get into the Q&A, because we really want to hear what you guys have to say and help you out. So one of the things that goes a really long way is a thank you note. So make sure you thank the staffer at the end like Bret just did, but then also send them a handwritten thank you note. Bonus points if you bring the actual thank you note with you and have all the members of your group sign it so it comes from you collectively, and then drop it in the mail right afterwards so it comes quickly. Again, it's all about building a relationship with these people and the staffer, because we're trying to build a long-term dialogue. So the more we can do that, the better. And then once you've had the great meeting and you've gotten all that great information back, we want to hear it, because it's a really good way for us to move forward in terms of reaching out to members, seeing who might be a champion on this issue, and following up. Again, Bret probably just has a whole database of this information in his head. It's just all stored in there. So we just want to add that directly into Bret's brain. And you can do that by entering it on our lobby report form, which I think Valerie can share in the chat. And then we'll also, once you have a meeting scheduled, we'll make sure to follow up with you after that meeting and give you that report form from the Ignite Change website as well.
Cool. I just shared the lobby report in the chat. Obviously, you won't need that yet, but it's also in the guide. I assume that you all have been referencing the main how-to guide. I will share that link in a minute. So all of the sublinks we've been sharing, like the map or the lobby report, all of that is in the main guide with the step-by-step instructions, and also talking points, some of which we went over. The ask that Liz said earlier, that's written in there. So one person said, can you repeat the ask again? It is typed up in there. So yeah, that's the lobby, the how to lobby guide is your kind of go-to spot. Okay, but let's go on to some questions because we've.
Well, Valerie, could we just like talk about a couple possibilities that are important just to flag too?
Yeah. You mean different geographies and different like.
Well, and you know, occasionally lobbying meetings might not go well.
Yeah.
They can go a million different ways, and I think, experienced almost all of them. Most of the time, you will have a nice, short, cordial, constructive discussion with that staffer. Sometimes you will get a staffer that knows nothing about the issue. And honestly, you know, I'm not speaking from like an ageist perspective, but oftentimes they're very young. I mean, you could have a staffer that's still in college, who's never heard of the Endangered Species Act, doesn't really know anything about wolves. It can be very, you know, very, have a very broad area of coverage. They just don't know anything. So it was a good, you know, to Liz to say, like, to ask that question, don't assume that they have a knowledge or investment in the issue that we do, because they are just tracking everything. Like I said, you might get shunted off to a different staffer than the one you're supposed to meet with. Maybe they got sick. Maybe they had a conflict. Maybe their member came in and said, I need you for something, and everything got diverted. You know, so just be flexible. Anticipate that it might not go as smoothly as you hope in your mind. It usually will, but I don't want to like make you feel like it couldn't, will always be perfect.
Yeah.
The flip side is you might encounter a staffer that knows a lot, or might even be hostile, or might not agree. I think if you have a meeting like that, it's just important to be cordial, to just firmly but politely disagree. They usually don't. I mean, they usually keep their opinions to themselves and they just listen. But you may have one who says, well, you know, what about, you know, the ranchers and the farmers who are losing tons of, you know, money every year to wolf depredations? Or who just say, well, don't we have enough wolves? Doesn't the science say we have enough wolves? They could push back. So be prepared for that possibility. And if you feel comfortable engaging in a sort of thoughtful, you know, polite way, you know, feel free to do so. And we certainly can talk through a couple of those. Don't let it spiral into combativeness. You know, if you don't know the answer, just say, look, I don't know. I'm happy to shoot you another email, follow up, get you some additional information and materials. You can just say, look, we respectfully disagree. You know, many more wolves every year are killed by lightning strikes and weather and disease than ever by wolves. It's an incredibly small percentage, and you know, it's just overblown. But you have to kind of gauge what you're comfortable with, and you always want to just kind of keep it at that very kind of cordial, professional level. Just because, obviously, if you have a bad meeting, then your message is probably not going to get through. So it's possible. I don't expect it will happen very often, but you know, just be aware that, you know, one meeting in 20 might be bad, or 1 in 50, but most of them will be fine. That's it.
Okay, good. That's good to note. Not all of them will go like ours did, but we do have some talking points on those questions that Bret brought up of like, what about wolf depredations? Or, I mean, sorry, livestock. Or what was the other one? I don't know. Do we need wolves? Why don't you just hit that one? Like if someone was like, don't we have enough wolves, Bret?
Well, there's lots of places where there's wolf habitat that there aren't wolves, and the science shows that they could and probably should be restored there, because wolves make ecosystems healthier. And the science has shown that they provide enormous benefits to wild, you know, habitats and ecosystems that spread, you know, across many areas. So no, There are still lots of places where we need wolves back.
I like that. So no. All right.
You can disagree. You just always want to, be polite, smile. You just gotta save it for later.
Nice. All right. We have a ton of really great questions. So let's move on to those. I want to make sure we really get to what people want to know. So a couple of questions on choosing who to target or how to target. So one question is, my reps are extremely friendly and have a wonderful exchange. I think I have had a wonderful exchange with a staffer in the past. These are people like Harris, Di-Fi, Pelosi. Would it make sense for me to go to another district?
I wouldn't. Assuming you're in California, I think it would make more sense if your House member is strong. I would say focus on Harris and Feinstein. Going to another district is tricky, right? Because one of the first things they want to know is where you're from. And when you're meeting in district and you're coming in from out of district, it'll feel a little bit weird. Now, the flip side, of course, is if you can find people in that district to go with you, sure. But it would be strange to just go by yourself to the wrong member of Congress that isn't your representative. You'll get a more value out of targeting Feinstein or Harris instead.
Nice. Makes sense. Okay, and then here's a question about how people should represent themselves. So should they say, I'm an Ignite Change volunteer? Should they say I'm just a concerned citizen? Like, what's an okay way for them to do it, like in our guidelines, and also what maybe some strategic considerations of what would make the most impact to the member of Congress's office?
I think at some level, it's always just okay to say you're concerned citizens. If you want to also say that you volunteer with Ignite Change, which is a grassroots network, for the center, and obviously Valerie has the right exact script, that's okay too. I think honestly, just do whatever feels the most comfortable and natural. They care because you're there. There are lobbying strategies where everybody comes in from the same giant org and you sort of make yourself known as that is a strategy. It usually works best if you all go to DC on the same day and you all wear like the same t-shirt. That's quite noticeable. So I think, just play it by ear. I think, Valerie or Liz might have suggestions, but I think it's fine either way.
Yeah.
It's not that critical.
The only thing you want to avoid is saying, hi, I'm with the Center for Biological Diversity, and representing yourself as speaking for the organization, or you could be mistaken for staff. The key part, if you're going to link to Ignite Change and Center for Biological Diversity, just make it clear, hey, I'm a volunteer with this network and this organization. Okay. What about town halls? Is it useful to show up at a town hall instead of taking a meeting?
Yeah, again, they're there to listen and hear what's on people's minds. So that's good too. The challenge, obviously, of a town hall is you don't know if you're going to get to speak because, sometimes there's hundreds of people and there's no way they're going to get through every question. They're not mutually exclusive either, right? You could follow up, you could do both. You could, if you feel like you had a meeting where the staffer just kind of was like a little bit blasé and you don't know if the message came through, sure, you can always try. But even when we're planning for lobbying pushes during recess, it's hard to guarantee that the town hall will come off. Whereas obviously if you set up your own meeting, it'll happen. So both are good. And I think it'd be great to ask that type of question at the town hall. Do you support continuing protecting, wolves? That's fine.
And the other thing to, just a couple follow-ups on that to watch out for is sometimes offices will have like open office hours. So if you haven't been able to secure a meeting with a staff person, like you've called a bunch of times and you're just not getting a response back, you could look Sometimes they'll share that information on their Facebook pages or their other social media or on their website for open office hours. The key on that is you never guarantee the staff person who covers the issue is going to be the person, but you're getting the message in. And then also if you're going through and you're not getting a meeting and they do have a town hall, you can always bring the fact sheet with you because there are likely going to be other staff people around staffing that member. So even if you can't get to the member, you might be able to hand a piece of paper to someone as well. Sort of as last-ditch efforts. The personal meeting with, more of a one-on-one is your best ultimate one.
Okay, a couple more questions about during the meeting. So, well, one is, what if you're not going with anyone? If you're doing it on your own, yeah, you can take that. But I think you just cut out the parts where anyone else speaks. And, it's totally okay to go by yourself.
Just do all the roles yourself.
I'll just say this: you can always go by yourself. That's fine. There's also this strange psychology that's true, where even if you just bring one additional person, it just works better. It's more comfortable. You've got like a co-pilot just to help you kind of collect your mental thoughts. It's hard to kind of have everything in your head from start to finish and take notes and sort of gauge the room. But if that's how it goes, give it a try. I mean, it's still you just talking to another person and expressing your concerns, and that's better than nothing. I always try when I'm lobbying in DC to have at least one other person with me. Usually another one of our team that works at the center, but sometimes it's someone from another organization. And it's just because it creates a slightly different dynamic that somehow works better. And I don't quite know why that is, but it's like basic human nature at some level. And it makes them also feel like they're more important because there's, one of them, but several of you, and they're all excited about what, that you all came in to see them. So it creates a better vibe for some reason, but it's okay if it's just one person.
Okay.
Wolves are strong in packs.
Right.
There you go. And if you don't have someone, add it to the Ignite Change map. We can't guarantee that we'll get you someone, but we can give you a great chance at recruiting at least a couple other folks. All right. So for during the meeting, just a little bit more on meeting with someone who has been really supportive. So someone was saying like, well, they voted the right way on the wolf issue in the past. And so if you do meet with them, do you just say thank you? Obviously no, because we have another ask. So I want to make it clear. So if you have a really supportive rep, just going over what's the tips and what's the ask for them again. And then what about tips for meeting with like a hostile rep or somebody who's just always been voted the wrong way on wolves?
Yeah, I mean, there are lots of great champs in the current Congress that are pro-endangered species and pro-wolf. And if you live in one of those districts, it'll be an easy meeting and it'll be a good meeting and you'll enjoy it. That still doesn't mean that the staffer you meet with, again, because of the way they're sort of the DC world and the in-state world works, they may still not know a lot about it, and they will still want to convey that interest back to their member because it's reinforcing, right? Like, we don't want to take them for granted, even if they're great, because if they only hear from people that don't like wolves, then they might not be great in the future. Now, obviously, that's probably not going to happen, but there's plenty of meetings we go to where we are simply like, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. We just want to make sure you're aware of what's happening, how bad this is, how much this doesn't follow the best science. Look at all the places that wolves could still live. Remind them of all of the good reasons that they should care, that they shouldn't, I mean, legislation is always kind of a little bit of a mess. Like, we don't want wolves to get, the short end of a stick in a future bill in Congress. So it's still really important to meet with people that are supportive because it just makes sure that we have and continue to have the support we need. On the flip side, yeah, if you have a member who's incredibly hostile to wolves, you should be telling them that you strongly disagree. Because again, they should care what their constituents think. And if they think there's enough of them that care about this issue, it might give them pause and they might change their vote. Probably not. But again, why would we not want to tell them that we really care about this issue and we think that that person has been in the wrong? But just be polite, explain why you believe that what's happening is wrong, why you hope that member of Congress does the right thing and oppose the delisting proposal. And should they go the wrong way, well, that's the whole point of electoral politics at the end of the day. So you're there to convey to them that you believe that this is important and this is what needs to happen. And at some level, that's the goal. And they might just be hostile to it, but at least you tried. I go and have hostile meetings, not all the time because they're not always great, but I do have them, and you just kind of smile and hopefully explain that you completely disagree with them.
Nice. This is related. So it's the tip on what to say when your legislator says it's not legislation, so they can't vote on it. We're just getting clear on the ask here.
Sure. Well, that's true, but remember that Congress has a constitutional oversight responsibility of the executive branch. And Congress should care about such a sweeping, important thing that's happening to the Endangered Species Act, because the Endangered Species Act is a law that Congress wrote and passed. And if it's not being done correctly, and it's to the detriment of wolves that live in many parts of the country, they should still care, because part of their job is actually paying attention to what the executive branch does. You're correct that there isn't a vote coming on this, and we're not worried about that at the moment. We have in the past, because under Republican control a couple of years ago, we were constantly facing the possibility of anti-wolf votes. So again, from that perspective of education, reinforcement, of sort of the right voting pattern, but also sort of just making clear that oversight matters, and you just hope that they will be part of that effort to hold this administration accountable. I don't think you'll get blown off as sort of just like, well, we're not voting on it, so why should we care?
Nice. Okay, a couple more questions. We'll see how many we can get through. So this is back on requesting a meeting. That was, okay. Sorry. I'm trying to monitor the Q&A and the chat at the same time, getting multiple things. So when we request a meeting, should we ask to set up the meeting with the member of Congress first, or just go right to the staffer?
I would start with the staffer, and I would say, we'd love to meet with you. And, if we can have a minute with the member, that'd be great. They're going to be in district for the next couple of weeks. It's possible. They may offer it, they may not. You never know what their schedule is. I think if you just start with the request for the meeting with the member, odds are they'll say no. You can try to do both simultaneously, but you're still going to want to route it through that staffer, because they focus on the environmental issues. And frankly, at some level, every member is different. So it's hard to totally predict how they will approach sort of that very general constituent outreach. Some members, if you do a little research and it looks like they actually have a lot of engagement or opportunities to meet with the member, go for it. Some members are quite busy. If you're going for your senator, it's very difficult. But you can try. And again, that's when the whole numbers things helps, right? If you got 10 people with you and you say, hey, can we have a minute or two with the member, just because we really care and we want to just let them know that we really care about wolves, that might work. The member of Congress might poke their head in and at least say hi, and you can say, protect wolves and protect endangered species, and they'll say, okay, great, got it. If it's just one or two, it's tougher. So no harm in trying, but I wouldn't just ask for the member meeting.
All right. Someone was following up to get clear on the ask, which I think is really, really important for this. So Catherine says, can't we urge the congressman to be public about opposing the delisting? And I just want to underscore that that's the top line. If you say, as far as I understand, Bret, correct me if I'm wrong,
Yeah.
say it in one line, you say, please, we urge your boss to publicly oppose this delisting.
That's right.
Yes. Yep. Okay. Bret, do we want to even mention the possibility of a sign-on letter, or should people know that's coming, or is it worth even mentioning this in the meetings that we have?
No, I think the easier thing to do is, so there's an effort underway to have a congressional sign-on letter opposing wolf delisting. Because Congress is difficult to predict, I don't know when that's happening yet. My honest recommendation is let's all set up meetings, make ask, but the whole point of building that relationship, of getting that staffer's email, of saying, hey, we'll follow up with you, and thanks for helping, but we've got maybe more things we'll request of you. If we get to that point, then we will follow up. Email, you can call them again, remind them of that. That's good, but we're not quite there yet, and I don't think it helps to plant a seed for something that hasn't started yet, because it gets very confusing very quickly. Because they'll email their DC folks. The DC folks won't know what they're talking about. It'll get kind of a muddled mess. So let's, it's hopefully coming, but I don't quite know the timing yet.
Okay, so this is for just you to know that your efforts pressing them to publicly oppose, hopefully there will be a sign-on letter in Congress that they can take a concrete action on that within a matter of weeks. So like Bret said, don't mention it in there, but that ask to publicly oppose may actually become concrete very, very soon. Okay, we have 2 minutes left, so I think we should move to wrapping things up, but thank you so much for all your great questions. If you have a question that was important for you to move forward that you didn't get answered, ignite@biologicaldiversity.org is our kind of group inbox. You can definitely email us there. And Liz, did you want to wrap us up?
I just want to say it has been really heartening for all of us to see the outpouring of passion on this issue. And we saw such a huge response when we asked people to set up these meetings. We really appreciate that deep commitment. We can't do it without you. And we are in a very intense period right now with the comment periods. There's so many different things you can do, and we appreciate all the ways you're helping. It really makes a difference. And I think the one tip that we can leave you with is you don't have to be an expert on this issue. You don't have to be an expert on any of the issues to meet with your member, because it's about your personal passion and telling your personal story, which will be really powerful. And doing it in a way that's true to yourself. And that if you do that, that will come across to the staff person, and that will come across if you get that chance to meet with a member. And it really then plants a seed, as Bret just said, so that we can continue to build on that relationship and emphasize that their constituents in their district really care about this issue. So I think that's really important to remember. And the other thing to remember is we are here to support you along the way, and we can help you walk through different steps if you're having trouble. And then obviously questions you get from the offices afterwards to continue to build that relationship. We truly, truly appreciate it, and we couldn't do it without you. And we're in the home stretch on the comment period, and we're going to make this big push so that we're loud and proud, and that our pack howls strongly together. So thank you. We really appreciate it.
All right, Bret, any final thoughts?
No, just, go have fun. Don't overthink it. Don't over worry it. Almost all the time, it's rewarding. Feel empowering and good. So try and let us know how it goes, and know that we'll help you and support you. And thanks for doing it. I can do the DC thing, but it's nice to think that there's going to be lots of other people out around the country amplifying that same message. That's great. I mean, that helps build what we're doing. So it's really quite when you think about all of it coming together, it's really quite important.
Absolutely.
So thank you. Yeah.
All right. Thank you all so much for taking the time to delve a little bit deeper, get some more into the nitty gritty of how to. Hopefully that was useful. Hopefully you got some questions answered, but don't be a stranger. We're here to help you through all the way through your successful meeting. So thanks again, and we'll be in touch. Good night.